Hello students, today we are going to discuss the third chapter of history, nationalism in India. As you have seen in the first chapter, nationalism in Europe, the nationalism is associated with the formation of nation states. You must have seen how German states were united together and Germany was formed, how the unification of Italy took place, and how the unification of Britain took place. So all these nation states were created during the emergence of nationalism in Europe. Cultural process also played very important role. New icons, symbols, new artists, romantic feelings, romanticism all played a very important role in the arousing the feeling of nationalism. Now, how did this feeling of nationalism emerge in India? As in other colonies like Vietnam, India has also a long history of colonialism, and nationalism emerged in India. It was associated with the anti-colonial movement. People of India were being oppressed, and this sense of being oppressed united them together. They came together and they struggled towards the colonial power, which was Britain. Now, there were different social groups in India, so they were having different aspirations. The meaning of freedom was different for different people. Congress, under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, was trying to bring all these social groups together for national movement, for a single national movement. But as you know very well, unity cannot emerge without conflicts. In your previous textbooks, you must have studied the feeling of nationalism, the emergence of nationalism in India till first decade of 20th century. So we will pick up the story from 1920s and we will see how the important movements like non-cooperation and movement and civil disobedience movement took place in India, how different social groups participated in that, what were their aspirations, what were the meaning of freedom for them. Now let's talk about the first part of the chapter, the First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation. The years after 1919 were very remarkable year in the history of India, because from this time the national movement started spreading to the new areas, incorporating new social groups, and people adopted a new mode of struggle. Now let's understand how these developments took place and what implications did they have. Let's talk about the First World War. The First World War started in 1914 and ended in 1918. This war created a new economic and political situation in India. Let's talk about the impact. Increase in the defense expenditure. The war prolonged for almost 4 to 5 years. It increased. There was a huge increase in the defense expenditure, which was financed by war loans and increase in taxes. Custom duties were raised and income tax was introduced. Then increase in the prices during the 1913 and 1918. In this duration, the prices increased, almost doubled. Then forced recruitment. Villagers were called upon to supply soldiers, and forced recruitment in the village area created widespread anger in almost all parts of this country. Then crop failure. Because of the crop failure in the year 1918 and 1920-21, there was huge shortage of food, and this was accompanied by epidemic influenza. And according to the census of 1921, 12 to 13 million people perished. But Indians thought this suffering, this hardship would get over after the war, but this did not happen. So during the war years only, at this stage, a new leader appeared and suggested a new mode of struggle. Now let's talk about the idea of Satyagraha. Mahatma Gandhi returned to India in 1915, January 1915. He came from South Africa, where he successfully fought with the racist regime with the novel method of mass agitation. We call it Satyagraha. Satyagraha emphasized on the power of truth. It emphasized that the truth is very powerful and need to search for the truth. If the cause is true and if the struggle is against injustice, then physical force is not required to fight the oppressor. Means if you are fighting for the truth and if you are fighting against injustice, then physical force is not required. Without seeking vengeance or being aggressive, a satyagrahi can win any battle in the world with the help of non-violence. This can be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. Conscience means inner soul or general moral sense, what is right, what is wrong. That sense is known as conscience. So this can be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. People, including oppressor, had to be persuaded to see the truth. We need to persuade them, we need to request them to see the truth. We cannot force them to accept the truth with the help of violence. So people had to be persuaded to see the truth instead of being imposed by the truth with the help of violence. That is the wrong way. And with this, ultimately truth will get the success. Mahatma Gandhi used to believe that this dharma of non-violence only can unite Indians. When he came to India in January 1915, he toured extensively in all parts of the India, understanding the grievances of the people, and he practiced satyagraha for the first time in India in 1916 at the place Champaran in Bihar, where the oppressive indigo plantation system was there. The farmers, the peasants were forced to grow indigo, which was a cash crop, which was a raw material for the British industries. So Mahatma Gandhi fought satyagraha in 1916 in Champaran and got the success. Then in 1917, Kheda district of Gujarat, where the crop failure took place, and because of this crop failure, the peasants were not able to pay the revenue. So they called Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi went there and practiced satyagraha for the second time, and he got success there. Then in 1918, cotton mill workers were struggling for wages and working conditions in Ahmedabad. So Mahatma Gandhi went there and fought with satyagraha and finally got success there also. So after returning back to India, he practiced satyagraha at three places: Champaran in 1916, Kheda district in 1917, and Ahmedabad in 1918. Now let's talk about the Rowlatt Act. Now with the success of the satyagrahas of Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad, Mahatma Gandhi gained some confidence, and in 1919 he decided to launch a nationwide struggle against the proposed Rowlatt Act. But let's understand what is the Rowlatt Act. This act was hurriedly passed in the Imperial Legislative Council despite the opposition of Indian members. Indian members were opposing, but British government passed this Rowlatt Act hurriedly in the Imperial Legislative Council. This act gave enormous power to the British government to repress the political activities. Government can detain any political prisoner without any trial up to 2 years. Means police can keep him in the custody without producing him in the court up to 2 years. So Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch a nationwide satyagraha civil disobedience campaign against this proposed Rowlatt Act, and this civil disobedience campaign against the Rowlatt Act would start with the Hartal on 6th of April 1919. Rallies were organized in different cities. Railway workers went on strike. Shops were closed down. Alarmed by this popular upsurge, many people disrupted communications such as railways and telegraph. British government also decided to clamp down upon the nationalists. Local leaders were picked up from Amritsar. Mahatma Gandhi was told not to enter the New Delhi. And on 10th of April, the peaceful procession was attacked by the police. There was police firing on the peaceful procession on 10th of April in Amritsar, and martial law was imposed and General Dyer took command. Then on 13th of April, as you all are aware of the infamous incident of Jallianwala Bagh massacre, this was the day of Baisakhi. Some people gathered there to discuss the repressive measures of the government, while others came to celebrate Baisakhi fair. Since they were outsiders, they were not aware of the martial law imposed in the city. General Dyer entered into the enclosed ground of Jallianwala Bagh. He sealed the exit points and decided to open the fire on the peaceful people. He ordered the troops to open the fire, killing hundreds of people. Later on, his object, as he declared later on, was to produce moral effect and the feeling of terror in the minds of satyagrahis. When this news of Jallianwala Bagh incident spread, people came on the street in North Indian towns. There were clashes, there were strikes. People attacked the government buildings. Government also decided to adopt policy of brutal repression, and seeking to humiliate people and terrorize them. People were humiliated. They were told to rub their nose on the ground, crawl on the street, and do salam to all the sahibs. People were flogged and villages were bombed, as they have given the example Gujranwala in Punjab, now present day Pakistan. That village was bombed. When Mahatma Gandhi saw that this violence is spreading, he decided to call off the movement against the Rowlatt Act. Rowlatt Satyagraha was a widespread movement, but still it was limited to the towns only. Now Mahatma Gandhi was thinking to launch more broad-based movement. Which would not be possible without the unity of Hindus and Muslims. So one way to ensure unity is the Khilafat issue. Now let's understand what is Khilafat issue. As the First World War finished and Ottoman Empire, present day Turkey, was defeated, and the rumors were spread in India that a harsh treaty was going to be imposed on the leaders of Ottoman Empire, and they are known as Khalifa. These leaders were the spiritual head of Islam. So when this rumor spread that a harsh treaty is going to be imposed on Khalifa, the sentiments, Indian Muslims, they did not feel good. Mahatma Gandhi decided to take this opportunity to bring the Muslims under the united struggle. He decided to set up a Khilafat committee in March 1919 in Bombay. He has taken the support of young generation Muslim leaders Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. Mahatma Gandhi was thinking that this is the time when we can unite these two important communities of the country for a united struggle. And in Calcutta session of September 1920, he decided to announce the need of non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat issue and for Swaraj. Now let's talk why non-cooperation. In his famous book Hind Swaraj, Mahatma Gandhi has written that British rule was established in India because of the cooperation of India, and they survived here because of this cooperation only. If we stop cooperating with them, their rule would collapse within a year. Now, how this non-cooperation will become movement? So, Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch this movement in different stages. In the beginning, there was the surrender of titles the government awarded, then boycott of civil services, army, police, legislative councils. Then people also warned the government if they will adopt the policy of brutal repression, people would launch full-scale civil disobedience campaign. Mahatma Gandhi and Shaukat Ali, in the summers of 1920, they toured the country extensively. Now within the Congress, there was an internal tussle. Some leaders of the Congress, they were not agree to non-cooperation movement, as they were thinking that the violence will spread and movement will be uncontrolled, will become uncontrolled. So they were not in favor of launching the non-cooperation, while others, they were willing to launch it. So there was, the month between September to December 1920, these 3 to 4 months were the months of intense tussle among the leaders of Congress. Finally, in December 1920, Nagpur session took place where the compromise was done and they decided to launch the non-cooperation. Now, how this movement will be launched, who will take part in that, and what are their inspirations, this all we will study in the second part of the chapter.